I had an experience that I want to share and then kind of find out if um, my approach to handling it was was a good one. So, excuse me. Um, I've been doing a lot of breath work recently, and after a pretty powerful session last week, what happens with the breath work is that, excuse me, for like the day or two after, I feel like, well, the breath work person says you're kind of like in this really open space between two places of consciousness, like the net is open and you're going to be more vulnerable. So, however that lands with you, but it's
Yeah,
kind of an
It's probably
assumption.
true. It's got a
Yeah.
truth.
it's
Yeah.
been my
It,
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So for me, I definitely feel more vulnerable. Like I just don't want too much coming in.
Mm.
So I was watching a YouTube video and it was whales, and they started showing whales being entrapped by gill nets and everything that happens to them, as a result. And I went into the place of, you know, I can't, I can't take this. I got to shut the screen down. But I stayed, I didn't. I stayed with it and I thought, okay, I'm going to try to breathe through this and really work with this because this is a reaction that I commonly have. So I stayed with it and I went into such a deep kind of a despondency and darkness in the lower part of my body and just like an inconsolable sobbing or I guess that's all I could say. And I
Good
was sort of
description.
coaching myself, stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. And then at one point, it was like, you know what? I'm afraid if I stay with this, I'm going to disappear. It felt like I'm in the spiral of um, devastation or something. So I pulled myself out, and it took me a little while to actually come way out of it. But in hindsight, I'm curious about what that was, and also curious if I know about enduring calmly. Like, should I have endured calmly further, or was I really kind of going into a direction that I might not have wanted, shouldn't be going into at that time?
All right, Janet, this is a great question. This is the right question to bring because it's a combination of things. First, the breath work brings in the prana and you're awakened. So your body's awakening. And your body is awakening to the subtle worlds with the prana. It's becoming more in touch. Your vital, the vital in the lower vital is opening up and it's allowing for a greater vulnerability. But the other side of this, which will come, will be immediacy, a fullness. But right now it's vulnerability because it's still growing into it. I wouldn't push it too hard. You don't want to go too fast because this can really blow out a system and make it more difficult to embody it because so your body takes a while to learn to hold what's happening for you because you're going towards the universal. Like I was saying with Patricia, it is this you are now tapping into things in the collective, the anguish of the trapped animals. They have a reflection in our own feeling trapped like that and powerless and despair. Maybe not even in this life, but they're mostly a shared cry for the world mother. And you're tasting one little piece of that elephant. So you're diving into it was correct. Now there are two things. You want to know your own limit. So you want to tritate where you step out and resource yourself. But when it comes, if you can stay with that despair, despondency, and that's the doorway to the asat. So that's the deep samadhi. It's very hard to recognize, to keep the consciousness there. But when you go, it's all the unmet parts of consciousness that are locked up in the collective consciousness that you have to go through. It's the dark night of the soul on steroids because it's not just your own. You're carrying a piece of the collective. So your nature's gone universal, Janet. You're now an expression of the world mother. She's showing you your labor. She's showing you your mission. So it's for me, it's a wonderful sign to see you on board in this way. I mean, you're so different. than when we first met you. It's like unbounded, free, wild creature. It's just lovely. Uh, but then the universe puts us to work to keep expanding beyond the boundary of what we've come to. But we don't have to do it too fast. We don't have to seek it out unnecessarily. Let it show itself. If it shows itself, then that's the time to do what you did. So
And
your action was correct.
and the pulling out, that's sort of where I just have to kind of be trusting, like, okay, yes or no. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Because if you do cross the threshold, you'll be dysfunctional. I mean, it'll be a very dramatic inward event. So don't want to push that. Let it come, because it won't be so dramatic if you can take it bit by bit over time.
Right.
And
Okay.
let the body catch up with it.
Okay. Okay.
All right, real
I can
good.
do that. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Janet.